The three constant things in life: uncertainty, pain, and change. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Soulful Intuitive. Have you ever said goodbye to someone or a place or a situation and felt sadness? Are you ready to say goodbye? Those are the two topics that we are going to cover today. The past 10 months of my life have been a series of goodbyes. And as much as I like to think that I have gotten good at saying goodbye, it's still something that I struggle with very much. As an immigrant, you leave your mother country at a young age, and then you say goodbye to all your friends and your school and your house and your neighborhood, everything you know, your language, your customs, and then you move to another country. But that's sad when you're doing it, but also you're excited because you're going somewhere new, to something unknown. And I often wonder, why is it that as we get older, these changes become more and more difficult? Why is it that it's easier when we're younger to say goodbye and be excited? As I do my intention journal, and as I write down my goals and my dreams and my destinations that I want to go to, I write down in details exactly what I want. And one of the things that I have been wanting for the past good 5-6 years is growth. More growth. I want to have exciting conversations with people. I want to connect on a deeper level. I want my friendships and I want my relationships to be very deep. I want these conversations to be entertaining, but also leave me a little bit more knowledgeable than before these conversations, before these encounters, before these interactions. However, when it comes to say goodbye to certain people, let's say friends, coworkers, acquaintances, clients, family members, I often suffer. I suffer a lot. I feel sad. I feel tremendous grief. And I feel guilty that something has come to an end. A lot of times I feel like I've done something wrong. And I was driving today. I was listening to very interesting podcast, and they were talking about the three things that is a constant in our life, and one's uncertainty, two is change, and three is pain. And the earlier we understand that, the easier our lives will be. I realized that if we make wishes, if we put out into the universe that we want to, let's say, have more quality conversations, more quality relationships, if we want to travel more, if we want a nicer home or a home that's more suitable to our needs. It doesn't have to be nicer or bigger or more expensive. It could just be different. It could just have a different layout. It can have different windows. It could have different lighting. It could have more lighting, less lighting. It could be on top of a hill, or it could be in a valley. We have to say goodbye to what we have consequently have outgrown. And I have to remind myself that when I am saying goodbye to a thing or a person or a place or even a habit, maybe I should feel my sadness, but also remind myself that this is an ending of something, but also the beginning of something else. That's exactly how I felt when we immigrated many years ago to North America. I was excited. I wasn't fearful. I was sad that I had to say goodbye to my grandma and grandpa, and my aunts and my cousins. I was sad that I had to say goodbye to my childhood house and my friends. But I wasn't afraid that we're going somewhere that literally everything is an unknown. To a place where we had to live, to the language that we had to speak, to the culture that we had to get used to, and to a community that we had to be a part of. None of it scared me off. And as I get older, I realize that these fears become just a touch more, what's the word I'm looking for? These fears just become a touch more intense. So I told myself today that if you don't make rooms in your circle of friends or circle of people that you spend your time with, if you don't make room in your basket of so many habits, then there's never going to be a room for something new, for growth, for change. So this change, even though it comes with pain, it will make me feel richer. It'll make me feel better and more aligned with what I have already ordered and put out in the universe, which is a life that has more quality. If I'm working on myself, if self-development is my focus in life, then I will attract people who will do the same, who are on the same wavelength. For example, if you decide that I'm going to become more athletic, I'm going to pick up a new sport, and I'm going to go to the gym more often, and I'm going to join a running group or a cycling group, well, you will be surrounded with people who have the same goals and who have the same importance. If you're a foodie and going to different restaurants and dealing with different cuisines and experiencing like taking cooking classes or just being very into the food culture, then you're going to be surrounded with people who have the same interests. Same thing with music, same thing with art. So then I had an epiphany. I had a moment of the people that I am saying goodbye to are no longer on the same wavelength. They no longer share the same interests that I have aligned myself with. And that doesn't mean that they matter any less or I love them any less or they didn't bring purpose and happiness and joy into my life. They absolutely did. I remember the first time I got on the plane to fly to another city to go to university, I had tremendous amount of sadness because my mom took me to the airport. And as I sat on the plane and the plane took off, I cried for an hour. Because the last scene that I had in my mind was my mom waving and saying goodbye to me. And she had sadness in her eyes because her little boy was leaving the house, was leaving the nest. And it was an ending for her. It was an ending for me because I no longer was a permanent resident of that house. And she no longer was a full-time mother for me. So I cried and I sat in my sadness and I felt guilty that I was leaving her. But yet I knew that I had to leave if I want to go to university. I had to get out of the nest if I want to be an adult and if I want to be independent. And this is common. We often see in movies where, the girl gets married and the guy gets married, and at the end of their wedding, they both cry and say goodbye to their parents because that's the ending of one chapter of their lives and beginning of another. But things aren't always this black and white. Things aren't always this easy to understand that something great has come to an end and something as great is about to begin. So when we go to a funeral, usually we weep and we're sad because we lost someone. But we often forget that the loss and the ending of that chapter of that person's material life is the beginning of another life, maybe on another realm, maybe on the same realm. But these cycles is never ending. It's like the seasons come and go, the seasons come and go. But usually at the end of the winter, we're happy because spring is starting. And some of us are sad at the end of the summer because the fall is coming. But if you get to a point where we have no attachment to these seasons, metaphorically, we just observe it and see it for what it is, and they all serve a purpose. The purpose of being a child, the purpose of being a teenager, the purpose of having parents taking care of us, and then the purpose of us taking care of ourselves, and hopefully one day the purpose of us taking care of our parents. Full circle. And if we lose our attachment to it, then we suffer less. And for a lot of us out there who are very sensitive, as we covered last time about being sensitive, we have to also realize that sometimes the pain is a bit too much. It might give you a few nights of anxiety and restlessness and sadness and shame and guilt and racing thoughts. But what I have learned, that those nights will go and the purpose will show itself, and you will get over those difficult feelings. So what I do is I try to breathe through them. And another thing that I do when I can't connect the dots, because I'm a dot connector, as my therapist says, and I always try to understand like the meaning of what happened. You know, why did I have this conflict today? Or why did I have this conversation today? Or why did this person have come back into my life? Because we all have these like people that kind of periodically disappear and reappear and disappear and reappear. And we just call them serendipity, or it's just a happy surprise, or sometimes it's like an unpleasant surprise when someone that maybe you weren't very fond of is now reappearing in your life. So what I do, which is a way that I deal with my anxiety, is I play with my tarot cards. And as you can see, they're very worn out. They're Angel Tarot Cards by Doreen Virtue. And I just think about that topic. Let's say if I had a difficult conversation with someone, and deep inside of me, I came to realize that I have to say goodbye to them, that I no longer want to be part of this exchange of energy, that this equation I will no longer be a part of. But if it's not clear to me as why it happened or why I'm feeling this way, then I just shuffle and shuffle. And sometimes I get my answers and sometimes I don't, because there isn't always an answer that's fathomable by us. There's always a reason, but we don't always have the knowledge or the understanding or the ability to understand why things are happening. You know, we often wonder why people are dying from famine or disease, or why the wars are happening, and how come some things are always the same no matter how different everything becomes. And then we question the eligibility of the divine. And if there is a God or higher power out there, why is this thing allowed to happen? And we have to remind ourselves that we're not ready to understand. We don't have the brain for it. We don't have the knowledge for it. We don't have the capacity for it, because life is very complex. And with our very little ability in these little bodies that we have taken up in this lifetime, the computer that's in our head, our brain, can always make sense of things, and it's fine. But sometimes when I'm shuffling, a card comes out, and I'm going to read this for you. It's the 10 of major arcana, which is life cards. They're important cards. Archangel Michael, and I'm just going to read the bottom of it because every card comes with a booklet. If you want more understanding, you can just flip through that page and then read like different definitions, and then you just use your intuition to understand what part of your question is being answered. So this one is says a time of positive change. A situation suddenly moves forward. Fortune is on your side. And then, of course, a bunch of other cards comes right behind it. And sure enough, Two of Fire, another two, which is the intuition card, which is usually the card that pops up for me because I rely heavily on my intuition. And this is always telling me to listen to your intuition and just go in and be careful about your thoughts, be careful about your decisions, and have patience. And so it's just another way. There's so many different tools to calm yourself down, to have closures, to have understanding, because closures, as important as they are, don't just come cheap. And when you get some facts at times, or you get certain feelings, or when you get validation about certain feelings that you made decisions based on, then you can come to a closure. Closures sometimes take minutes and sometimes they take years. So it's important for all of us to find what works for us. For some people, it's a good night sleep. For some people, it's just locking themselves behind closed doors and just be and let everything go through their body and their brain and their heart, and give it a good cry, give it a good laugh, give it a good meditation, maybe pray on it. And for some people, they need to go see their therapist, they need to talk to their friends, they need to just keep repeating something a few times in order for it to click. But to sum up, what I want to cover today, which I hope people will receive and resonate with, is endings usually come with a feeling of sadness and heaviness and a little bit of grief. And it's important for us to acknowledge it. It's important for us to realize that it's very human to have a hard time letting go, but also it's very important to be excited for the new beginnings anytime we're dealing with an ending, because endings are always followed by new beginnings. And just like the winter is always followed by spring, and sometimes when it's cold and it's dark and it's wet and it's lonely, we forget that clouds will go away and the sun will come back. And then when we're sitting in the sun looking at the greenery and freshness of life, we will come to forget about the sorrows. So let's not lose hope. Let's be excited about what's exciting, and let's go through our grief and sadness of endings and stop torturing ourselves with feeling of shame and guilt, because these cyclical events and situations are part of our lives. And we're going to end again with the three things that I learned from a podcast, that the three constant things in life: uncertainty, pain, and change. Thank you very much for watching. I will talk to you very soon.